Every year, on this last Sunday before Lent, we tell the same story, or we tell a different version of the same story, but it's basically always the same. The story of the Transfiguration. On this last Sunday of the season of Epiphany, we get one last Epiphany. We see Jesus in all his glory. We see Jesus with Moses and Elijah. The law, the prophets, and the Messiah all in communion with one another. This is the culmination of all of Israel's hopes for generations, what they were looking for at the time. And here at St. Gregory's, we accompany this story with this glorious music, with gospel music, with African American gospel music. And both of these things happen right before we take that plunge into something that is suddenly very and dramatically different. A season that's somber and contemplative, and dare I say, a little medieval. It's a season in which we use awful sounding words like sin and wretchedness and penitence. Or, as we're saying this year, the messiness of life. Why? What is the point of this day? What is the point of always reading this story on this day? What are we celebrating today? And what was the point of Jesus taking his disciples all the way up that mountain in the first place? That must have been Peter's question too. In that moment, when the cloud had passed and the glory had faded, and it's just good old ordinary Jesus standing there in front of them. What was the point of showing us all that? What Peter said in that moment makes a lot of sense. That need to hold on to that moment, because he must have been thinking, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. The kingdom is here. This must be the start of it, the start of all we've hoped for. On this mountain, we're going to build 3 houses for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah, and then from there spread out and build that kingdom out from this mountain. It's all uphill from here, in the good way. Because that's the way we tend to think about life. Once we get to that place of victory, we get to that place where we've landed that dream job, where we've married that dream spouse, we bought the house that we were bidding for, we have our children, we think, finally, this is great, this is good, this is what I've been hoping for. It must get better from here. It certainly can't get worse again, right? And your laughter tells me something, which is that we know better. In the story, of course, what happens next after this experience, this is the last thing that happens before they set off for Jerusalem, and for Jesus' passion and his death. As if to say, it only gets much worse from here. And as we get older, your laughter tells me, as we get older and hopefully also wiser, we realize that that onward, upward trajectory is just a lie. As life happens to us, the shape of life is continuously peaks and valleys, up and down, moments of glory and bliss and clarity and peace. You think this must be what we're living for. Can't I just hold on to this now? But then we have to then go back down the mountain. The messiness of life comes rushing back at us. But I don't think Jesus took Peter and James and John, and by extension all of us, up that holy mountain just to teach us something that we would learn anyway just by virtue of getting older, just by virtue of life happening to us. He took us up there so that we might take hold of life in a different way, to be more intentional and purposeful, to live boldly and work and not wait for the messiness to come to us, but for us boldly to step into the messiness of life. That, if we're ever paying attention to the stories in the Gospels, the stories of the Old Testament even, that is the point of this thing that Jesus has welcomed us into, this ministry in his name. It is the point of Lent in a more particular and programmatic way to allow ourselves to step into something that feels not quite as happy as today, but confronts things like sin and evil and injustice and conflict, because there's something that we can only experience on the other side of those moments. In the messiness is real healing, because that's where the demons and the disease is in Jesus' story. In the messiness is growth, because that's where the puzzling and paradoxical parables are that he teaches that makes our minds kind of explode a little bit in order to be brought back together and see a deeper truth. In the messiness of life is the struggle for justice, because that is where he reveals the bloody violence that makes imperial power possible at all and terrorizes us all. That's why we step into the messiness. And we still have today. The deep divine wisdom of today is that if you're going to venture into the messiness, you have to take something with you. You need a light to guide your path through the darkness. You need a memory of the better times. You need a song that you can sing, if only to yourself. Today teaches us the cosmic significance of the last taste of a jelly donut. Today teaches us what is so divine and holy about a parent putting a note in their child's lunchbox when they know they have a difficult test, saying, "I love you and I'm proud of you." Today reminds me of the divine intervention of having a spouse who texts me every day around noon just to tell me that he loves me and misses me and can't wait till we're back home together. For the nerds out there, like me, stay with me, folks. This is why Obi-Wan Kenobi gives Luke Skywalker a lightsaber, a literal sword of light, before they venture into the very heart of death. Right? George Lucas knows what he's doing. It's Samwise, here's another nerdy one. It's Samwise on the side of Mount Doom, Samwise Gamgee reminding Frodo about the Shire. I tried to think of a Harry Potter one, but I'm not quite sure what the right metaphor is there. Somebody's going to have to tell me. It is why, friends, it is why we sing African American gospel music today. Because this is why African American gospel music exists at all. Because when you live in a world that is constantly telling you that you are less than human, where you have to defend your humanity day by day, you need a song you can sing to remind you who you are and whose you are. So, in these next few days, don't jump into thinking about what you're going to give up for Lent quite yet. You got time. Or what you're going to take on for Lent. Instead, I invite you to first think about what is the light you are going to carry with you. What is the Transfiguration memory? What is the mountaintop song that you're going to sing? What is the little light that you carry with you in the darkness and the messiness of life? Because if you can hold on to that, then Lent becomes something much, much more life-giving, as does the struggle of this whole mess we call human civilization. We can venture bravely into the messiness of life because we know deeply, even if we're not always, convinced, we know that experience on the mountaintop is the real world. It is the real reality. It is the kingdom for which we have been made. We can only glimpse it partly and only every so often, but every time we do, we can hold on to a piece of it deep inside of us, remembering it, looking upon it, singing it out, and knowing that that will be the only reality one day. Because all shall be well. All shall be well. It will be. All manner of thing shall be well. Amen.